Ladies and gentlemen, the Fed has been printing money like this. We also have XRP in an extremely undervalued position. $400 million worth of Bitcoin longs getting closed over the last week. And we've even got the billionaire Bill Ackman explaining about the US banking crisis that he fears we're headed for yet another train wreck. That and more will be covered in this video. So if you guys appreciate all the daily crypto news, make sure you press that like button. Now, as you can read right here, billionaire Bill Ackman on the US banking crisis says he fears we are heading for a train wreck. Now, he says that this will happen if the government allows the current banking crisis to continue. Trust and confidence are earned over many years, but can be wiped out in just a few days, he said. Hopefully, our regulators will get this right. Now, if there's one thing I can tell you, it's that the regulators mostly don't get it right. But simply put, since banks that were in this special category, like for example Credit Suisse, are failing, together with higher interest rates, together with higher cost of debt because of that, and similarly deposits, it's going to move over into smaller and smaller banks. It's basically going to move over everywhere unless they can contain it as soon as possible. Simply put, there's a very big problem though. Why does the Fed increase the interest rate? Because you want to increase this cost of capital to stop inflation from soaring. That's kind of made difficult though when the Fed keeps printing money, aiding this inflation yet again, and thus to combat that have to increase the interest rate yet again or even more. So it's kind of like a negativity spiral here. And I mean, if you take a good hard objective look, most of the quantitative tightening that we've seen throughout the last period here, the last last year or so, has all been wiped out again. 2/3 of it has been wiped out in the last couple of weeks already. And here, J Hump says most vulnerable banks have lost $1 trillion of deposits according to JP Morgan, with more to come. In terms of banks, we're not in a good position right now, guys. And you have to understand why this attack on crypto now makes so much sense. I've explained it in one of my previous videos, but I don't fully agree that the only solution to all these troubles is cryptocurrencies. But I will say that for a majority of normal people, the whole cryptocurrency market is an easy solution to not get completely screwed over by the banks. And for that reason, it also makes a lot of sense for these already established entities to completely try to smack it down. We know they don't want you to make money, we know they don't want to lose control, and we know there are people that are so hungry for a good career or more power, like, again, allegedly the guys at the SEC, that this all makes a lot of sense. Anyway, the recent days have been quite strange for crypto. Rover just posted that $400 million in Bitcoin long orders just got closed over the last 7 days, and that this is something very important to pay attention to. What I have to say about that, guys, is that my trade from a couple days ago is actually still open. But honestly, the theory that I described to you guys a couple days ago has been working perfectly, which was basically short every single time you're in this area and long every time you're in this area. And if you actually use a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning that you are going long, for example, with the stop loss equal to your first take profit at, for example, 1%, this could work very easily, and I described it to you guys a couple of days ago when we opened up our short position. And again, a link to Bybit, the platform I use to trade, is down below. And also, don't make sure you forget, make sure you don't forget, that's what I'm trying to say, to press that like button, because it's just been an interesting range for Bitcoin, right? You can see we've kept trading between this 27.2 basically and 28.6 or so $1,000 range. This 28.6 we predicted quite naturally. It was because we pointed out that that's a zone where a lot of support lied for Bitcoin, and thus right now probably a lot of resistance would lie as well. And so the easiest way to make money in crypto right now as we speak, with trading, even though it's not financial advice, just my thoughts, is to keep focusing on this range with a bias for Bitcoin to actually come down. What I mean with that is that we're not opening crazy long positions unless you're getting a juicy little entry right here for a quick bounce upwards. But even so, we're placing a stop loss quite tight because there's more probability of breaking downwards than upwards for a major move, not for these bounces, as that has happened so ridiculously many times already. In terms of momentum, you could say that they're taken off a little bit in terms of volume, but I'd say that the volume has been low and remains low. Not too much surrounding that has changed thus far. And again, the way I look at it is just it keeps making bounces, it keeps bouncing back and forth until we see a breakout towards either side. So either another attempt to push above $28.6 thousand or a breakdown of $27,000-ish, at which point we can also make a couple of very juicy trades, because that move will most likely be a pretty significant move, meaning we get ourselves a ton of profit. So again, guys, make sure you watch these two levels and make sure you watch out for a breakout. Again, preferably a confirmed breakout though, because we have seen a couple of times where the price went below this level, but no confirmation was given on the higher time frames especially. And again, this same little ping pong that we've been playing on most altcoins as well. I'm just showing you guys Bitcoin right now, but most altcoins have been facing this same predicament. One thing I should also add is that even though on the short term we are biased towards the downside for Bitcoin, that's just because we've not been breaking that $28.6 thousand barrier. You have to understand that I still believe in these cycles. I'd say let us head over into this $10,000 a year Glassnode subscription for the tier 3 and notice a couple of very interesting things. And that is simply put Bitcoin's scarcity. You have to understand that people are basing it upon what's happened over the last couple of years right here, because it's quite logical. The demand for Bitcoin increases more than the supply does, and so by theory, quite logically, the price will then also go up as there's more people trying to buy it than the amount of Bitcoin that gets issued, so the price per coin goes up. But another interesting thing that's happened is the Bitcoin percentage of supply that's been last active about a year or more ago has actually been increasing. Now, generally speaking, this increases when people are not really ready to sell their crypto just quite yet because they believe it's going to go higher. And indeed, what we are seeing right now as well is that I believe it's actually at one of the highest points ever, if not the highest point ever right now as we speak, at almost 70%. That means that the majority of people holding the Bitcoin have not moved their Bitcoin for over 1 year. And think about this logically, guys. If you think the crypto market is going to crash, you're moving your Bitcoin. If you think it's going to go up, well, you'd rather just hold on to it and you're not moving anything. Also, another fun little statistic you might enjoy to read up on is regardless of what happens to the Bitcoin price, the adoption just keeps on increasing. And again, this similar fashion works for almost every single altcoin out there. We've seen the hash rate spike right now, by the way, and the mining difficulty vice versa. I think it also made a new high yesterday. And I also must say, I've been looking a lot into all these $1 million Bitcoin price predictions, because there's actually multiple people that have said $1 million per Bitcoin will happen. The only thing is, our Balaji says it will happen in 90 days. And the problem is, I don't know if the entire US banking system will collapse within 90 days. Again, looking back at history, it's the span of 100 years that it takes for an entire system to collapse and for the world reserve currency to change. And so, indeed, right now we're over the median, we're over the average at 98 years already, with 95 being the median average. But for it to then happen within a couple months, it just feels really hard for us to predict. As again, even though things are headed towards the gutter, it's hard to put a month counter on it, right? Because you don't know how quickly these things will spiral. In a similar fashion, I don't think many people expected Credit Suisse to take such a big beating or for SVB to fall. And so from that perspective, it's all possible. Certainly, we also have billionaire Barry Sternlicht saying, or given a warning of a hard landing, saying the economy is going to implode. He says the bond market is telling you what's going to happen. The bond market is right. Interest rates have to fall. The economy is going to implode and we're going to have a hard landing. And from all those perspectives, I'm just saying, hey, we're not in a good position in terms of the economy, which I personally think is quite good for crypto, which is why we're picking up the pace again over the last couple of weeks. But if it can all just spiral to the ground in like 80 more days, again, following these cycles, Bitcoin is going to have some crazy push rather soon. And I think it's going to go above $100,000 not too long from now, leading altcoins to spiral at or towards a crazy price as well. And relatively, I think XRP is extremely undervalued. Normally, it has about 25%, so a fourth, or about the same as Ethereum's market cap in most of its history. Right now, it's sitting at about a tenth of Ethereum's value. And from that perspective, I think XRP is going to be one of the best runners in this next bull run, especially if this lawsuit actually fixes itself. That would just be crazy. I think from that perspective, perspective, if the lawsuit's over, then XRP could actually even beat Ethereum. But kind of zoom out for a little second, guys. Every couple of years, if you look back at Bitcoin and thus to the crypto market, it just spirals completely out of control. I mean, if you ask me when I started with crypto, if I thought Bitcoin could ever hit $10,000, I would have laughed at your face because it was just not graspable. It was just not fathomable. Right now, if you tell me if it's going to go to $1 million or you ask me, I'm saying yeah, for sure. The only question is when. Plan B puts his prediction in 2024 because of this halving at $500,000 per Bitcoin. Again, basing it upon the previous halving and the previous crazy gains that we've seen. And last but not least, I saw one interesting article from South Africa here. Report. Regulations governing tokenized deposits and crypto assets in South Africa set to take effect in January of 2025. I think a lot of these entities, like for example the MiCA bill for in Europe, a lot of them will take place in the next year or two. And that's also something you should take in the back of your head. That right now, everything's being set in place for some massive regulations coming out sooner or later, but they're not here just quite yet. And from that same perspective, it's really hard to think or fathom these future price predictions when you don't know the way the government's going to handle it just quite yet, as they have not made up their mind. Do I think cryptocurrencies will just keep going up? Yes. But do we know how crazy it's going to go up? Well, it depends on how aggressive the government tries to push it down or embraces it. Hey, some countries like El Salvador are really accepting. Some countries like here in the UAE, they're very accepting. We'll have to see. All I can say is I buy more crypto every single day because I believe in the vision, and I really can't think of anything better to hold. I personally think they could take almost everything away from you in this world except for your cryptocurrencies.